My child went and begged to everyone she could in order to raise money to go on an overnight field trip, but she did it by lying and saying we were starving and barely could afford to get by, so I'm not letting her go. So I, 34F, and my husband, 35M, have a daughter Iris, 13F. We are honestly not well off at all and get by with lots of sacrificing and budgeting. Still, we do our best to make sure Iris has all the extras she needs. We buy her art supplies, we pay for her to go out with her friends, etc., all within reason. I am willing to give more details on this if needed. Iris's school does school trips every once in a while. She has one coming up, an overnight trip to our nearby city where they can see the sights and visit historical monuments. Not being specific on purpose. However, it does cost quite a pretty penny. When Iris told me about this and asked for the money, I told her we were very sorry but we didn't have the money for it. She seemed quite upset, so I told her maybe the three of us could put our heads together and think of a way to raise the money before the deadline for the trip. I was thinking maybe a bake sale or something, perhaps she could sell some of her art or do commissions. She huffed at me and told me she'd get the money herself and just walked away. Here is where I may have made a mistake, I didn't follow up with her at all. Honestly, it slipped my mind, and I work long days so it wasn't really a priority, especially since she didn't bring it up again. I guess I just assumed that she'd given up and decided not to go. I did still set aside a small portion from my paychecks just in case she was working on something, even though I didn't really expect anything. But 2 days ago she came up to me and told me she had the money. I was shocked and confused and firstly assumed she must have sold some of her things, and I was ready to scold her about not talking to me first. But the reality was worse. I asked her how she got so much money, and it turns out she literally went and begged to everyone she could. Her friends' parents, her art teacher, literal people on the street. She apparently told them we were extremely poor and couldn't pay for her trip, which is not true. We are not in poverty, we keep her as comfortable as we can. She has never had to worry about meals or the heat turning off. She just guilted them all into giving her money. I was appalled and extremely embarrassed, and told her that that was completely unacceptable and she had to give all the money back and that she was not going to use that money to go on the trip. I wanted to say she couldn't go at all now even if she got the money in an acceptable way, but my husband said that was a little strong. He fully agrees with me on not using the money she pretty much stole, though, and when she went crying to him about it he sided with me fully. She started crying and shouted at me that the deadline was a week away and that she couldn't get the money again in just a week. I told her that was really sad and maybe if she'd made a plan with me weeks ago, then she would have been able to get the money. But for now she has a week to come up with it. She stormed upstairs to her room and has been sulking since then. So, am I a jerk for telling my daughter she couldn't use the money to fund her trip even though she came up with it herself? Edit, since people are missing this, if she had just said we couldn't afford the trip and asked for donations, I would have been okay with it, even if I still don't think our financials should be public knowledge like that. She did lie and guilt people by telling them that we couldn't afford dinner many nights so she went to bed hungry, and that we couldn't afford new clothes for her so she often wore the same clothes for years at a time, and that we hadn't paid for any hobbies or extracurriculars. I am not denying we aren't well off, but we are not poverty-stricken like she implied. Of course, the trip isn't denied because she told people we can't afford it. It's denied because she lied to people to get them to give her money. Commenter 1, are you actually serious right now? Okay, I'll give it a shot. You didn't parent your daughter when she initially asked you. You just wanted the irritation to go away. You set no boundaries, you literally made assumptions on what she would do after intimating to the child that you are poor to go not a trip. If that was her takeaway, you did it, not her. After her putting the time and intentioned effort into it, you now bother to find out what's happening. Just so you know, saving part of your paycheck doesn't make you a saint or a good parent. You should have used your big girl voice to communicate. So she repeats what you told her, to other people to attempt to fix her issues herself. You get embarrassed because she repeated what you said, that you are poor, to strangers. Being poor is obviously a sin and only bad people are poor, so your reaction is completely normal, right? Right? /s. You still offer no solution, putting the poor child back even further and now making her understand that your word doesn't mean shit, that you don't say what you mean, and that she must forever be embarrassed and guilty about her situation and not talk to anyone about it or get help. Nice one. You're a jerk. Commenter 2, I'm going to be unpopular for it, but not a jerk. Yes, you should have followed up, but all parents have these I could kick myself moments. The fact that you owned it is a positive. You are teaching your daughter that it is not okay to lie and basically steal to get what she wants. I think it's commendable that you refuse to reward her for bad behavior. You are teaching her to live within her means, and that you don't always get everything you want. Many people nowadays complain that kids are disrespectful and entitled. These are probably the same people who think it's okay for her to keep the money and go on the trip. Stick to your guns and hopefully she will learn from it. Maybe you could discuss with her ways that she could help you save money or get a job babysitting. You could help her start a savings account for when these trips or activities come up. Update. So I had a sit-down discussion with my daughter after work today. I thought she was still going to be upset about the whole situation, but to my surprise she started crying and told me she was sorry. The gist of it is as follows, I'll try to be clear about it. I asked her why she hadn't just come to me to make a plan about raising money. She said she was just upset we couldn't afford it, and she admitted she should have come to me. I apologized for not following up with her and just assuming, which she acknowledged, but she also insisted she's mature and also could have come to me. I then asked her why on earth she was lying about not being able to afford food, and told her that was a pretty serious thing as someone could have called CPS on us. She started crying again and said she was sorry and that she knew it was wrong but she just really wanted to be able to afford the trip. She begged to be able to use the money to go on the trip, but I told her that we couldn't do that as that was scammed money. I then told her that she should give it back, but that I would sell some stuff in the home. The money I get from that plus the little bit I saved already should hopefully be enough to cover her trip. She started crying again and thanked me. We then had a discussion about the time I spend with her, and I apologized for not being able to spend as much time as I would like. She said it was okay, but I'm still going to try to figure something out. I can't afford to cut hours, but maybe something else. In the end, I hugged her and asked her if she wanted to have a mother-daughter day at the park this weekend on my day off, which she gladly accepted. I told her in the future if any situation like this ever arises, she just needs to come to me for help and we'll figure something out. There won't be any need to lie to people to get money out of them. She agreed and apologized again. Overall, a very productive discussion. I'm just glad that she realized the lying/guilting was wrong and took accountability for it, so now I'm going to do my hardest to get her on the trip. I'll even borrow money from family members if I have to. She was very receptive to what I was saying, despite some of the commenters in the last thread telling me she was going to cut contact as soon as she turned 18. Not really sure why people kept making judgments based on assumptions that were just untrue. I do not hate my daughter. My daughter does not hate me. I was not trying to punish her for telling people we couldn't afford the trip. I would have preferred if she didn't broadcast our financial situation like that, but if she had got the money from telling the truth, only that we couldn't afford the trip, I would have still let her use that money to go on the trip. I just didn't want her to go on that trip with money she got dishonestly. Anyways, I don't expect any further updates to happen, and I'm ready to consider this matter closed. Commenter 1, I can't help but wonder what the kid's point of view is. Does she think your family is poverty-stricken? Maybe she didn't think she was lying. Kids sometimes see things differently. Commenter 2, you made the financial situation her problem. You apparently told her to raise money. She sounds pretty young. Her first instinct was to lie to get others to pay for the trip. You as a parent massively messed up. Why is the burden on her to sit down with you and make a plan? You're the parent. You make the plan. Kids shouldn't be carrying the burden of their parents' shitty finances and be responsible for figuring out how to pay for school trips. Do your job as a parent.